This is my very bizarre Gibson G3 Grabber bass. Before you go getting all mad at me, I did not modify this bass. So I bought this bass probably 12 to 15 years ago. I'm just not recalling when I bought it. So when I bought the bass, the modifications were already done. The guy selling this bass to me claimed that it had been used in some popular bands. He was a producer and he had bought a lot of instruments from the band. So when I bought this bass, it was the original tone and volume, and they had three-way switch. It's always had three Diodago pickups. The weird thing, the middle pickup never worked. And if you look really closely at it, this is the original pickup. These were vintage pickups. This had been modified in the 70s. This model is a 75. But the pickups were vintage. But it was weird is somebody sometime in its history literally had cut that pickup wire that close. So it never worked. So, and it was weird, if you ever clicked the middle switch, the bass would stop working. So I did a video and uploaded where I just basically wired a new pickup into place with the same existing wiring. And I didn't like it. I didn't like the sound, didn't like a hum that was now resonating. I even went back and tried to reground it, but at weird combinations of the switches, it would buzz. And I literally made sheet after sheet trying to understand how the pickups work. And through playing with it and tapping the coils, really what the original people did was they must have been trying to get a jazz bass, because they were mostly running these two pickups here that were working in these two switches. Either put it in a forward or forward or back pickups. So they were tapped single pickups, forward or back. And the middle pickup was just a simple humbucker wiring. So what I'm guessing is they were trying to get a combination jazz bass, sort of P-bass combination sound through buying the Diodago pickups. These pickups, I don't know what the number was back then. I would say they're probably the vintage ones, equivalent to the I think it's DB120 pickups. So I went back through, got it wired, and it really, I didn't really know what to do with this, so just be flat out honest. So I did a lot of checking wiring diagrams. I contacted Diodago and I said, look, I have a new pickup, have two very old vintage ones. They actually couldn't offer a lot of advice. They said, well, either try to find an older pickup, wire it this way, or just replace the other two pickups with newer ones, which I thought was odd. I wouldn't have thought pickup wiring would have changed that much. So what I ended up doing is wiring both these pickups in series, not parallel, and the middle pickup didn't work when I got done wiring it at all. So I went on the blogs, asked a lot of people I knew questions. They gave me a lot of recommendations. It still wouldn't work. I got so desperate, I basically pulled this thing apart and tapped the coils until this pickup started working. So it's weird, these two pickups here, and if this pickup would have been a 4-wire pickup, would have been out of phase with the rear one. But if you were to wire all three to Diodago's, the modern pickups, these two would be in phase and this front one would be out of phase. To make this work with these older pickups though, I literally tapped the wires. We're doing mock setups with the wires until this middle pickup started working. I could only get a very odd configuration done to get it to work. Basically, your hot is your red on these two pickups, so that means they're in the same phase, they're not out of phase. This one here, which is really bizarre, I had to connect the red and green wire on the new pickup, had to wire them together, and the black goes to the hot lead in the ground and the black to the ground, as well as the shielding wire. And that finally started to work. So now the pickup completely works, or I mean the bass completely works as it should. So it's 3 traditional series pickups. There's a volume and a tone for each pickup. The only thing that's weird is if you put the volume up with the middle one all the way, it drops the volume in any of the other pickups it's combined with. It just drops the volume. They still work, and so obviously the wiring can't be 100% accurate, but I do like the tone. I really like the tone of the middle one independent, just by itself, and then these two at full volume. You can run all 3, except for the middle one has to be at 9, it can't be at 10. I don't like the tone very much, and from what I've read, most people don't like a tone of 3 humbuckers together. But so I have a unique bass now, obviously. 3 Adagio, probably equivalent to DB120 pickups, and a badass bass bridge, which is obviously replaced some time ago, and they literally drilled into the wood. And that's again why I didn't go back and try to restore this bass. If the original bridge would have been on this, I would have spent the money to get the correct pick guard, and I would have returned it to the 3 pickups. But because this damage was done, I decided that there was no reason not to try to make 3 humbuckers work to create a unique tone. I love Ernie Ball basses and I love P basses, so it would make sense that I like this tone now better than the original tone of the bass. I'm not a jazz bass fan. Not that I hate jazz basses, I'm just not a super fan of them. So I'm going to show you some of the video I did to fix it so you can see what it used to be like, and I'll show you the different tones on it. Wire this up to DiMarzio's recommendations, and which is a volume for each one of these, and just a master tone. So I'm going to try to use the original tone, but I'm going to replace with Gibson actual parts, and I got consistent knobs, so I should hopefully I'll have a better sounding bass when I get done. We'll go ahead and give you some of the tones of this bass now. It's wired up. So I'm going to start with just the back pickup. Again, this is one of the original vintage ones, and just in series by itself with the tone all the way up. So this tone is this is your nasally sort of tone. It's very bright, obviously, because it's at the bridge level. So the next thing I'm going to do is just the middle one by itself. So obviously this middle one, to me, with the way it's wired right now, is pretty much like a P bass sound. You know, rolling the tone off, you really get that sort of that dark noise, or dark, not noise, but dark sound. Front pickup. And to me, with that front pickup in series, pretty much this is your sort of your EB sound, and especially if you roll the tone. That gives you that really sort of dark Gibson's tone of like a Ripper bass sound. So again, I have found my favorite tone is to have these two pickups all the way up, especially with like a pick sound. Turn the tone all the way up. And so you can hear what it sounds like. This is with all, again, if you put all the pickups all the way up, you see it quiets and sort of distorts if they're all up. If you just take this down to 9, the middle pickup, then you can get all 3 of them working. So the other tone that I've come to like is the rear one, and the middle one about 5. So what I'll do here, so again, front pickup with the tone all the way down. Getting that Gibson's tone, or getting that Gibson Ripper EB sound. The middle one, all the way up. The tone about halfway. And again, the bridge pickup all the way up, tone all the way up. And this to me would be more like the Ernie Ball sound. So if you have any feedback on why you think this wiring works, I'd love to hear it. Again, I don't claim to be an expert on these instruments. I did ask for as much help as possible, and the instructions that I ended up following the best I could was from the Diodario site, which was which you could print off for the pickups. Again, because I had vintage pickups that only had a 3-wire humbucker, they didn't work exactly the same. But I do love the new tone. It no longer has any feedback. It's 100% quiet, which I like. The other one had a lot of feedback. And it has a unique tone, so it's pretty cool to own a bass that has such a unique tone as this now. And I will be keeping it, though it was challenging to wire it because of some of the space limitations, and the original holes are left behind with the where the switches used to be. I'm just not going to try to fix that. There's no reason to. But overall, you know, combining a sort of a vintage DiMarzio tone is pretty cool. Thanks.